Hello everyone, this is Dan, your resident Digimon fan. Welcome back to the channel. I've got the lurgy. I think everyone around these parts has gone ill over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm no exception, so I'm going to sound a little bit nasally, but I really wanted to pull this video together whilst the game is still fresh in my mind, and I thought this would be a really good opportunity to go through the art book that came with the collector's edition. So I finished Time Stranger at the weekend. I'm still dabbling around in the post-game stuff and preparing my party for the Mega Plus New Game Plus run through, which I'm really looking forward to. Probably get to that later in the year. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with Time Stranger. There are definitely some things that you can tell they had to sort of wrap up and get to the point. We know this game was in development for a very long time and they changed of director and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely some things that you could tell probably weren't as they originally intended, but what they managed to pull together was very, very impressive, and I think it told a really, really cool story. So we're going to go through the art book. I'm going to use that opportunity to run through my thoughts on the various things that come up in the game as a whole. There will be full spoilers in this video. Everything is going to be talked about, so if you haven't finished Time Stranger, then don't watch this video. Just click off it now. You really don't want me to spoil it for you, and I really don't want to spoil it for you, so just making it nice and clear. Spoilers. Okay? Cool. So let's make a start and go through this art book. You see it's got like a dust cover, and then it's black and white on the inside. If we move into the first section, we've got the different contents down here: key arts, character designs, environment concepts, element designs, and movie scenes. And quite clearly, the book also says this art book contains detailed settings, materials, and visuals from the game, including major spoilers. If you haven't played the game yet and want to experience the story firsthand, please read with caution. Yeah, as you should. Never look at the art book before you've played the game. You're just asking to be spoiled if you do something like that. Alright, so let's move over then to the key arts. So off the bat, we have this one here. So we've got some various people. Obviously, you've got the agents. I played as Agent Dan, and then this one was my operator. Then over this side, we have more of the characters. You've got Hiroko, Inori, Agumon, Dr. Simmons. Then you've also got the other, not DSAT members, the public safety members. I'm not actually sure. I can't remember what the names is. It like Asuna or something? I'll correct on screen. And then that's the doctor guy. Yeah, it's cool artwork. I actually have a little bit of this on my wall, which is really nice. Here's the other key art from the game. So I think the game cover is this. I don't actually have the jewel case. So, but you've got the two playable characters there. Got Inori, Digimon, you've got Jupitermon, I think it's Raffle mode is what it's called. Then you've got Agumon, Goemon, and Patamon as the starters, so that's cool. And then over here we have the Gear Forest. Oh yeah, it does say Jupitermon and Raffle down there. Moving over, ooh, this is cool. So this is meant to be like, you know, the Renaissance painting style. You've got Inori down there with her hand up to the various Olympus 12 gods. You've got them all here. This is really lovely artwork. Really cool. I love this a lot. This is the first time seeing this one. I hope there's a lot of cool stuff like this further in the book, and it's not just all character models, but I really like that. That's awesome. Alright, we're on to character models. So here we have Dan Yuki in his Adamus outfit with all of the various parts, the goggles, the belts, the shoes, and all that kind of stuff. The whole anime thing and how the character was created to essentially fulfill the purpose of writing the path of Agumon so that he wouldn't like go crazy and use his time powers for bad, as Chronomon was hoping he would do, was a little bit not ham-fisted. I think it makes sense, but it did feel the reveal was a little bit confusing. It definitely had one of those her moments when it came out, um, but it did explain the anime thing. I thought it was really cool how they kept teasing it throughout the story. You know, you've got the anime being, oh, they are noticing Adamus. They must be onto us. And then as you continue the game and you get further and further through the layers of the story, you realize that actually it's the other way around. And I just think that's kind of funny. We've got here a bunch of the premium costumes from the various versions of the game. So you've got the Thai costume, the Agumon one. I rock the Agumon one quite a lot. Got Cyber Sleuth, even doing the Cyber Sleuth hand gesture. Swimwear over here with the designs on the shorts. Got the school uniform, the public safety one, which I think is the one I've worn the most because it just looks really classy. A plain t-shirt and then the Adamus coloured shirt as well. Lots of designs. I do wish that there was a bit more in the base game when it comes to costumes, because the best costumes are obviously the premium ones that you pay for. I guess that goes without saying, but otherwise in the game you pretty much only just got t-shirts of various designs, so could have been a few more I would have liked. And here's just a bunch of the other t-shirts that you can get, including some of the collab ones like Pac-Man and Tekken. So that's pretty cool. All of these ones you can buy in the game. Then we have the same for Kanon Yuki, the female protagonist. I played my first playthrough as Dan, obviously, being my name. So I think I'll probably play Mega Plus as Kanon though, or Kanon, not sure how it's pronounced. I like her character design. I think she's pretty cool. And you see she's got most of the same objects as Dan, but she also has this weird thing where she has like one legging, which I think is a choice for sure. You definitely stand out if you dress like that. And then you have all of her outfits. So it's cool that she has much more unique outfits, or not much more unique, but the unique outfits to the male character. So she's got the Kari or Hikari outfit, Gatomon or Tailmon. The Cyber Sleuth outfit's really cute. Really like that one. She's got her swimwear as well, kind of classy swimwear, I think. The school uniform, public safety, and then again I'm expecting t-shirts. So yeah, really cool. I do like the character designs for the main characters. I think they're really good. I do sort of wish that they weren't silent protagonists the whole game. It being that eventually you figure out, of course, that you are just a part of Digimon, so I guess it kind of makes sense that Digimon is the one that's speaking for you most of the time in the game. But it's definitely a trope that I'm falling out of favor with. So I wouldn't say no to, you know, a change of pace on that one. Yeah, we've got the various guns and the Digivice phone. Pretty cool. I thought the gun thing was kind of interesting. You're not really shooting with it as much as you were just loading and launching Digimon with it. But the cross arts are cool, and at that point you are basically just shooting the bosses. So I think that's kind of cool. Moving on then, we have Inori here. What is she carrying? That is a big bag. That bag is huge. It's like bigger than her. It's full of like school supplies, I guess. You never see this bag in the game, as far as I remember. See, look, that's huge. Jeez. And then over here you've got her various parts of her design. Clearly the bag was going to have more of a part in it, maybe, but they just didn't do much of it. I thought Inori's character was great. I was saying to my wife, I think that they made the right choice with this game, having one or two main characters, like so having Inori and Agumon be the main characters, and then just having a big supporting cast of Digimon. I think it meant that you got a lot out of the relationship between Inori and Agumon, and the prelude anime short that they released just solidified that for me. Like, I would love a follow-up. I would love something new, or like a side game when you play as like Hiroko or something. I really want more out of this world. I thought the characters were great, and Inori was a big part of that, and I thought her English voice acting was really good as well. Then we move on to Inori's costumes. I had her mostly in the Yuki Cyber Sleuth outfit. I thought it suited her really well. The Mimi one is cool, but the hat just didn't quite look as good. It looks good here, but the 3D model just didn't look quite as good. So there is that. Obviously, she's got the swimwear, which is classy again. I think it's quite nice. I did have her wear the swimwear in the Abyss section because I had all the characters in the swimwear in that section. It just seemed to make sense for me. But other than that, it just doesn't seem appropriate to have her running around in a swimwear. Don't know, maybe that's just me. And then obviously her Palmon outfit I think is really cute as well. So really nice premium outfits. Then we have Aegiomon. So Aegiomon as well, I thought they gave him a lot of character and he was quite believable. I think that the only thing is the way that he imprinted on Inori very fast. We know that Digimon imprint on their partners very quickly. I mean, if you've watched the first episode of Digimon Adventure, they're literally like glued to the children, and they said they'd waited for a long time for them, so it's like a fate/destiny thing. So it would make sense that Aegiomon would imprint on Inori in that way. But if you watch the prelude animated short, it almost like adds to that as well, that you can tell there's some more reasoning behind it. And I think it worked, honestly. The bit where he basically denies Junomon and says, no, I'm going with Inori instead of staying in the digital world, and she goes absolutely insane, was so cool. It was really cool to see a character just say, no, I'm not going to do what I'm told, I'm going to do what I want. And to see the repercussions of that, I thought was really awesome. So his costumes were kind of cool. We had the Patamon outfit, which is really cute. The swimwear, I think, is kind of like a cool 90s kid swimwear. The TK outfit it's all right. I just don't really like it that much. I had him in the Yugo outfit most of the time to match the Yuki outfit that Inori was wearing. I thought that looked really good on them. And then, of course, we have Aegiokuzmon, or Aegiokuzmon. I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce it. But we have that and all of his various forms. I thought these were really cool. Although it definitely went from like a little brother to a "oh no, he's hot" situation, which was kind of concerning. But we've got like the lightning version, the ice version, the plants version, the dark version, and the holy version. Post game, I have him as the holy version. You never actually unlock the dark version on the main Aegiomon. He obviously turns into the dark version during the cutscene where Inori is sucked into the space-time distortion, and he starts to, mess around with time to try and get her back. But you don't actually get the main Aegiomon to turn into this. You can get a second Aegiomon. Pro tip, if you train an Elecmon, you can digivolve it into an Aegiomon when your agent rank is like 7 or 8 or something, and then you can get the Dark Aegiokuzmon, and he's really cool. I like him, but I'm glad that the game doesn't focus too much on Aegiomon going dark, because that's definitely a bit of a trope, is you'll have, the main character have like a dark phase. You had like Skull Greymon in Digimon Adventure. You had Shine Greymon, was it called Fall Down Mode in Digimon Data Squad? But it was the version where he tried to become Burst Mode and just went crazy. It was really cool, but those are handled well because it's like one episode where the tamer is trying to push their partner. Whereas in this one, it was different. It was like the Digimon trying to push himself to do everything in his power to save his partner. And I thought that was really cool. Aegiokuzmon, pretty awesome. And then, of course, Chronomon. The final boss Chronomon, I assume he's going to be in here somewhere, is slightly different to the versions of Chronomon that you can digivolve into. But I really like those ones. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with the Olympus 12. I never played Digimon World Dawn and Dusk, or Digimon Story Dawn and Dusk, depending on your territory. And I haven't ingested much about the Olympus 12. So a lot of the Aegiomon stuff, the Jupitermon, and the rest of it was all relatively new to me. but I very much enjoyed it. I like the Holy Eiji Kuzumon because he kind of has the Jupitermon fists. I think it suits him quite well post game. Moving on, we have Kosuke Misono. So this is Inori's dad. This character, I feel like, probably had a bigger role in the story at some point, but then it kind of got a bit lost in the source, and I was a little bit disappointed with his implementation in the end. So obviously at the start of the game, he seems like he's going to be a major part of the narrative. He welcomes you into his home. He welcomes Agumon into his home. You know, you learn that Inori's mum and little brother were killed / disappeared in a Digimon incident 3 years prior, and Kosuke left his job at public safety to become a private investigator and try and find them now, or at least investigate Digimon. So it was interesting that he was still forgiving of Agumon, or at least interested in Agumon, and there is that mission where you take Agumon to Dr. Simmons through Kosuke, and it seems like maybe they're going to experiment or whatever it is. It seems like he's going to have a big role, but then of course once Inori goes to the digital world and essentially disappears for 8 years, by the time you come back you discover that her dad rejoined public safety, now having lost all of his family, and become the formed DSAT so that he could focus on eliminating the Digimon rather than learning more about them. I think that is a cool character arc, don't get me wrong, but you learn so little about him. You know, other than the start of the game where you're with him for a couple of little missions, and then right near the end of the game where Inori eventually happens upon him and confronts him about the use of the weapon, the Chronomon infused weapon, to destroy Digimon. Apart from that, that's all you get out of him, and I feel like they could have been a lot more done with him. So that was a bit of a disappointment. I'm not sure exactly how much more they could have done, but it did feel a little bit like that story didn't really go anywhere. So anyway, that's Inori's dad. Moving on over, we have Hiroko. I actually really liked Hiroko's character. I think they probably did her justice. I think they did a good job. I like that you had, you know, the young schoolgirl Hiroko, and then the 8 years later young adult Hiroko. So probably like 16 and 24 would be my guess, probably. I thought that was really cool to actually have a character in the real world that was that had aged and knew that Inori had gone missing. I thought that was really great. Although, to be honest, I don't think she looks that much older. I mean, you generally do look a little bit different between 16 and 24. It's not like between 16 and 34. I don't look anything like I did when I was 16. But I felt like they could have done a little bit more with her character model to make her look a little bit older, at least like change her hair or something. But at least they changed her outfit, so there is that. Would have been slightly worrying had they not done that. So yeah, Hiroko I thought was great. I thought she was going to be a little bit cringe, you know, going down her streamer arc and just constantly trying to interrogate things. But I think it kind of makes sense because then that lends her, when she's investigating Inori's disappearance, she's using her, you know, skill set to try and figure out what happened to her. Obviously, she's unable to actually find the answer, and then she is the one eventually that pulls together that little anime short showing the characters with Inori and Agumon, which you see at the start of the game. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, not much more to say. I really liked Hiroko. Next up is Dr. Simmons, Monica Simmons. I thought she was great as well. A little bit not underutilized because she was a big presence in the game, especially in the second half, in the future. But she didn't really do much other than the mission where you go to the lab. There isn't a whole lot that Dr. Simmons actually does other than just tell you to go do side missions or whatever. I think it's cool that she left public safety and went to live with the Digimon in the Rebellion Village to try and fight back. I thought that was cool for her character. nothing more to say for Simmons. She was okay. Then we have Asuna Shiroki. I thought she was awesome. I could tell by how she looked in the earlier part of the game with her design like this. I was like, yeah, she's definitely not just a standard public safety officer. She's definitely going to be a bigger character in the future. And then, of course, she turns into this crazy ninja person who essentially does mercenary work for Dr. Simmons with her partner Beal Starmon. I thought it was cool that her Black Gatomon, well, not her Black Gatomon, but the Black Gatomon that helps her in the past when the portal opens, digivolves into Beal Starmon and becomes her partner. I thought that was pretty cool. But again, not a huge amount of characterization here. She mostly is just like a blank slate designed to just fulfill missions and to be, cool and edgy. They maybe could have done a bit more, but she had a good relationship with Dr. Simmons, maybe too good. Depends how you look at it. But I thought she was a kind of cool little side character. Shota Kurai or Kuroi, I don't know. I'm just butchering it, aren't I? Yeah, he's obviously in the past with public safety, and then in the future with DSAT. He doesn't really do much. I mean, he's mostly just there for continuity, I think, for you to in the future be like, oh, look, it's that guy we know. But he doesn't really do that much. Kodai Kuremi, on the other hand, I feel like he was built up to be this big, significant character, but then they do nothing with him. I mean, Kuremi, obviously, Kyoko from Cyber Sleuth is presumably his daughter, and so I would have thought there'd be a bigger connection between Cyber Sleuth and Time Stranger, which is, I don't know if it's a criticism, but it's something that I was a little bit disappointed by, was the lack of a clear connection between the two. But they really did nothing with Kodai Kuremi. I mean, they say he was injured when the portal opened 8 years ago, and then you never hear or see from him again. That's it. Like, he then becomes this fictional character. I really don't understand what happened there. It's just another one of those plot points and character arcs they build up and then just drop, which was a bit of a shame. Definitely felt like there should be more to this, and maybe they will explore this in the extra episodes they're going to release, or maybe they'll even do a sister game, a bit like Hacker's Memory was for Cyber Sleuth, which explores more of that. I think that would be really cool if they did that. But if they don't, then they've kind of left this one hanging, and that is a bit of a disappointment. All right, moving on. Toya Kuga, again, another character that doesn't have much screen time. To be honest, he doesn't really need to. He was just like an underling of Dr. Simmons in the past, and then in the future he becomes like the chief scientist working for DSAT, just trying to surpass Simmons. Basically, when Simmons refuses to do what DSAT want and resigns, Toya Kuga takes over. He's just the typical mad scientist kind of guy, not really much more to say. And over here we've got DSAT with their various weapons and mechs and shields and whatnot. Obviously they're supposedly to be public safety, but they're mostly there just to sort of like eliminate the Digimon threat. That being said, they're also hypocrites because DSAT were using Digimon for their own security, so it was definitely a case of, do as I say, not as I do, Digimon for me but not for thee, sort of thing. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about DSAT. Mirai or Mirai? I think it might be Mirai. I'm not sure. Yeah, she had a huge part to play in this game. It's probably the biggest part that she's had in any Digimon game. Well, any of the ones I've played anyway, where she features. She was a key part, talking to the protagonist about the Akashic records, and being the custodian of the In-Between Theatre, obviously. Big part to play, and I thought she was great. She mostly just kept out of it. She was probably the most hands-on she's ever been in one of these games, but she still mostly just stayed out of it like she normally does, and I think that kind of works like in her favor. And then sometimes you would walk into the In-Between Theatre and she would actually be her older self. It's weird they don't have that in in here, but you can see, like, based on this picture here, sometimes you go in and she's just randomly the older version of Mirai from, like, Cyber Sleuth, for example. And she does briefly comment on the fact that because time, like, the In-Between Theatre is kind of between time, it's not it's not really a normal place, like a real world. That's why she can take on whatever appearance, basically. Whether it's by choice or it's what we're seeing, I don't know. But I love her continuing to be a mysterious character. Moving on, Homeros, King Drazel, and Kunlun. So these are the three that I don't know if they're not really rulers, they're like the deities, the gods. They control the three known digital worlds. So we've got Homeros is the leader of Iliad, which is the world that we're in for Time Stranger. King Drazel being the leader of, I can't remember what it's called. Is it called Yggdrasil, or is that just King Drazel's name? I'm not sure. But this is the digital world that we're most familiar with. The one that hosts the Royal Knights. So you've got like the Olympus 12 in Iliad. You've got the Royal Knights with under King Drazel, and then Kunlun is the new digital world called Shambhala. And I don't know if that's appeared in other media. I'm not as up to date with the lore as some people, but I thought it was cool to see them and actually have them take a somewhat active role in the story, certainly in the side quests toward the end of the game. I think it added a lot of context and it kind of made sense. I actually low-key loved that Chronomon essentially rose up against Homeros, and that was his punishment, was being essentially locked into time itself, forcing the Titans to go underground, and the whole story kicks off because of that. I thought that was really clever. Yeah, I really, really liked that. So yeah, I liked these custodians. I like as well that once you get to the final boss area and you can start time warping, you can go back and recruit the Royal Knights to join you in the final battle, and they actually do. When I first beat the game, I hadn't done those side quests, so it was only Omnimon that turns up and swipes Chronomon to take away his shield. But if you recruit more Royal Knights, then they appear in that final cutscene as well, and I thought that was a nice touch. Over here we have some other character designs. I don't think these are any people in particular, are they? They're just sort of like generic NPC looking designs. A lot of the NPC designs were the same or very similar to Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, and I think that was to be expected. You know, they started development so long ago that those would have been the assets that they had at the time. They obviously looked a lot nicer because it's got a slightly different cel-shaded-ish art style this time around, but the models were pretty much the same. Then we have Jupitermon and Jupitermon Wrath Mode. I really like these ones. Wrath Mode only really came up a couple times, so I feel like they could have done a little bit more with that. But having it be that Agemon morphs with the player character to create Jupitermon, I can see why they didn't want to focus on that too much, because then you would lose, you know, your ability to fight with your regular team of Digimon. But I thought they were really cool. I liked the whole Jupitermon getting access to the time power in addition to the usual lightning powers, to be able to basically take Chronomon's place. I thought that made sense and was a cool part of the game. I enjoyed that. The whole thing with him leaving shadows behind, and it's those shadows that you became one of those shadows. Essentially, you were formed out of one of those shadows. Is a bit sus, not gonna lie. But it made a bit of sense, you know, those shadows going through various time periods and trying to change fate so that he could stop Inori from falling into the space-time distortion. It at least makes sense, so I'll take that. I was saying whilst I was playing the game that it's really hard to pull off a narrative that involves time travel without it coming across as a load of rubbish. Usually it just becomes completely contrived and they just explain away everything with, yeah, there's time travel, whatever. But I feel like Time Stranger actually does a pretty good job of managing the time power aspect. You know, at least to begin with, Agemon doesn't actually have control over the power, so he can't just use it to do whatever. It's just basically certain points in the story where he's like crying out to try and change stuff and is eventually able to do it. But having the fact that you have the time travel, but you can actually then control towards the end of the game where you're traveling to and from, I think it works pretty well. And there's actually a side quest. I know I haven't started talking about these guys yet. There's actually a side quest I think that does it quite well, where you are tasked with helping to return someone to their past, someone that must have got caught up in an anomaly similar to you, ends up getting pushed forward into the future by 8 years, and so you're tasked with sending him back. But then that creates this weird loop where he meets his future self and makes different makes different life choices based on what he thought he was destined to have. Even Hiroko calls out saying, wait a minute, this doesn't actually make any sense. And I thought that was really funny. It was quite tongue-in-cheek, and it was quite it was very thoughtful, and I think it worked really well. Anyway, enough talking about that. We've got here the Olympus 12s themselves. We have Marukimon. I thought he was great. He had a lot of time in the game, and having him be the leader of Central Town, essentially the leader of the good Digimon, if you can call them that. I thought he played that role really well, and having people sort of, well, not people, Digimon revere him, I think made a lot of sense. Minervamon as well, I really loved. Having the contrast of, Minervamon being the older sister at the start of the game to Lunamon and Coronamon, and then eventually having them completely outshine her, to the point where she ends up digivolving into Mervamon in the final battle just to try and prove to herself that she can still be on par with her own siblings. I thought that was a really cool touch, and I really like her as a character. Also, her side quests where she starts to fall in love with a Beelzemon with a motorcycle is really funny. I love that. Apollomon and Dianamon. Yeah, I love the Coronamon and Lunamon sections of the story. I love the side quests where they go off to the cosmic stage or whatever it's called, the various places that they go to, as Coronamon and Lunamon, and then in the future you find them as these Olympus 12 mega Digimon at odds with each other, and then eventually fusing together to make Grace Novamon. I thought that was really cool. I liked the dynamic between these guys. Speak of the devil, there's Grace Novamon. Very cool, and I actually used Grace Novamon myself in the game, because I actually had a Coronamon and a Lunamon from the very start. So, and I love Grace Novamon. I'm going into Mega Plus with them. I think they're a really cool design. And then we have Junomon as well. I thought she was kind of cool. I was expecting a little bit more from Junomon specifically, seeing as she was like the leader of the temple. But to see her go kind of crazy was cool. I was a bit disappointed that it just turned out that, I was being controlled by Cherubimon in the end, or by Chronomon's shadow, which was a Cherubimon. That did kind of suck a little bit. But I thought she was good. I thought they gave her some good screen time. And then Venusmon and Neptunemon, I think this duo was excellent throughout the game. The fact that it started with them being a Shellmon and a Divermon, and coming to the realization in the future that these two were those Digimon was just really, really good. The relationship they had, and the fact that Neptunemon goes back to fight for the Titans again, but in order to sort of bring about order and balance, I think was really well done. Yeah, no notes for these two. I thought it was really great. Bacchusmon as well, I thought was a cool character. I wasn't sure what to make of him, but his relationship with Sirenmon, who eventually becomes Ceresmon, I thought was really great. And it's quite emotional when Sirenmon sort of returns herself to the Earth to recharge. I thought that's quite emotional, although somewhat ruined by the fact that she then just comes back as Ceresmon in the future anyway. But that was kind of cool. The Ceresmon thing was a little bit, not contrived, but it was very much like last minute, because you've assembled like 11 of the Olympus 12, and then suddenly it's like, and then Sirenmon digivolves into Ceresmon. There you go. Was a little bit out of nowhere, but I guess it makes sense. Ceresmon is not much of a talker, so they mostly just worked as a base of operations when fighting Chronomon. Then we have Marsmon and Volcanusmon. Marsmon I thought was great. The Bearmon brothers, I loved their dynamic, and having, Calusmon be the big Bearmon and having them fight in the arena. I thought that storyline was really, really cool. I loved all of that. No notes again. That was great. Volcanismon was a little bit underutilized. His boss fight was really good. I really enjoyed that. But then after that, he mostly just disappears. I think it was cool then rescuing him in the future, because that's why he disappeared. He was basically taken to be experimented on by DSAT. Yeah, no, I think he was a great character, and I liked his love for the action figures from Akihabara. I thought that was really cool. Moving on to some bad guys, although I don't know if you could really call Plutomon the bad guys. He's meant to be like the leader of the Titans from the the Dark Shadow Abyss place or whatever it's called. But he's pretty much just a chill guy, and you even have that conversation with him. You're like, oh, you know, I expected something different from you, but he just likes to keep things under control, run a tight ship. So it doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's a bit like, I mean, he's obviously meant to be like Hades, right? Or Pluto, I guess, depending on your mythology you want to go down. But he, I quite liked his character. I felt like that section of the game though kind of sucked when you're teleporting around with Gekomon and getting lost. I didn't enjoy that much. And obviously Titamon, great character. Having him desperate to steal Chronomon's power, I thought was pretty cool. And obviously then using the power within a fight was awesome. Riding on Skullbaluchimon, I thought that was a pretty cool fight, and then eventually coming back later in the game as a Sudamon riding a Dorimon, I just thought was like chef's kiss. It was so funny. Yeah, I just loved that. I thought he was great. All right, moving on. I'm starting to lose my voice, and we're only just over halfway, so I better hurry this up. All right, so we've just got some other character designs from the start of the game now. So we've got Omnimon, who pops down to help you and Inori fight off the Virus Metal Greymon in the like busted out Tokyo Metropolitan building. That's kind of cool. It was unexpected as well, because we knew the game was going to be about the Olympus 12, and then having Omnimon appear, it's like, okay, Royal Knights, what's going on here? It almost looks like he nods at Inori, because Inori says, like, I think she says, "Are you?" and then he just nods. But I don't see how Inori would know who Omnimon was, right? Because this was presumably the Omnimon that King Drazel sent along with the rest of the Royal Knights to help with the issues going on in the world. So yeah, bit of a weird one that. I only just thought about it. Anyway, then we have, of course, the starters, Patamon, Goemon, and Devimon. Got some of the other ones. You've got the Bearmon brothers, so you've got Little Bro and Big Bro. I think they're the same, it's just slightly different shading on the fur. Other than that, I think they're the same model. Maybe one of them, maybe Big Bro is slightly larger. Not too sure. Then you got Lunamon and Coronamon. Very cute. Shellmon and Divamon. The pre-evolutions of Venusmon and Neptunemon, of course. Divamon with his scarf wrapped around him because of his injury. And then Sirenmon. I thought Sirenmon was really cool in this game. I've never really seen Sirenmon that much, so I think it was nice to see them get some time to shine. Got Black and well, not Black and Black Agumon and Black Gabumon, as well as Agumon and Gabumon. So the Agumon and Gabumon that were in the game were the ones that become Omnimon, so they were the Royal Knights version. I was wondering if they are the same Agumon and Gabumon pair that eventually fall out of the digital world into Eden and become Nokia's partners in Cyber Sleuth. I'm not sure, like I'm not clued up on the timeline. There's definitely some connection between the two games, but whether it is the same one, I just couldn't say, to be honest. Bit funny having these two in here because they are a pre-order bonus, but it is what it is. Then we have the Bond of Bravery and Bond of Friendship. Was this the first time that these two appeared in a game? They certainly wouldn't have appeared in Cyber Sleuth or Hacker's Memory, because the film with these in, Last Evolution Kazuna, came out after those. But no, they were cool. I enjoyed using Gabumon, Bond of Friendship, in the game. You got crazy powered up, juiced up Titamon when he's got Chronomon's powers. And then we've also got this guy over here. I'm not sure what part of the game is he in. Is this part of Chronomon's final design? Yeah, I think this is meant to be like the final boss Chronomon, but they've done it like yellow and red. That's why I wasn't sure, because in the game he's obviously mechanical. But yeah, that is definitely Chronomon, isn't it? I feel a bit silly now. Yeah, different variations on the design. I like the one they ended on in the end. Then we've got the Dark Shadows. Like I said, they just turned out to be parts of Digimon that were left behind whilst he was time hopping. So it makes sense in the end. To begin with, though, it's a little bit confusing. And then the Giant Slayer, the creature that was created by DSAT to destroy Digimon. It's pretty weird. I'm not sure what's going on over here with this massive helmet and dreads. But it was sufficiently menacing, and it made for a pretty pretty confusing start to the game, but it did all make sense in the end. The fight between the Giant Slayer and Jupitermon was pretty cool. So there's some more artwork there of the Giant Slayer, made up of their various component parts. And that's Chronomon Destroy mode. That's the one that you end up fighting at the end of the game. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about the end of the game and the final fight. JRPGs, for me, the final fights can often be quite annoying. They're just hard for the sake of being hard. You know, the numbers are massively overtuned. They're designed to just like one-shot your characters and to be really annoying. The one that I have in mind specifically is the Bravely Default final boss, where even on the easiest difficulty with like the max level characters, they're still like one-shotting you, and it's really annoying. You have to spend like the whole battle just keeping your guys alive. And it's a really long and drawn-out fight, so I didn't really enjoy that. I was worried something like that would happen with Time Stranger, but actually the final fight with Chronomon and with the help of the Olympus 12 was done so well. Like, it was long and it was drawn out, but rather than feeling like, oh, come on, is it over yet? For me, it felt almost like you were just getting stronger and stronger throughout the fight. And having him taunt you the whole time was just incredible. I thought it was a really well done fight. Having like cutscenes in the middle of the battle to show the progression of the fight, having Chronomon digivolve all of your Digimon and having Agiamon digivolve them back up was such a cool touch. Yeah, genuinely really, really awesome final boss. Yeah, it was so good. Really enjoyed it. There's some more artwork there of Chronomon Destroy mode. And then here we've got some environment concept art. So you've kind of got like the well, that's like the temple area. You've got the in-between theater down here. Got the Freedom Wall, I think it's called. So the wall in Tokyo to keep the Digimon out. Got Tokyo itself. Got the coffee shop. The attic where you sleep in Inori's house, pretty cool. Got Central Town there with Central Tower in the middle. Marukimon's like throne room, I guess. It's really cool. Factorial Town and the various arms of Volcanismon. Really love Factorial Town. It was really odd the first time through. I felt like there was something missing, and then obviously when you come back through a second time, it's basically the same but with the arena in it, so it's like, oh, okay, that makes a bit more sense. There you've got the temple. Really, really amazing design. That was one thing I really appreciated about this game, as opposed to Cyber Sleuth, where most of the game you're just in these blue cyberspaces. The like world designs in this game were just incredible and just so awesome looking. Like the temple was like nothing I'd ever seen. Like where the floor is like moving with you, and you've got these like turning cogs on the front of the doors. The massive throne where Junomon sits. Everything about it was just so classy. I really, really enjoyed it. Then we have the abyss area, the watery area, which was really quite nice. I didn't like what happened to it in the future where the sea goes all red. It's kind of depressing. I like how it looks in the past, so it's good that you can just go back to the past and play it that way. But I thought the depths were really cool when you go down with Waymon. And then later on in the future, obviously Neptunemon has kind of mapped it out. He's got a base down there and all that kind of stuff. I also thought Sharkmon was a really cool villain. I really enjoyed him, and I enjoyed seeing him come back every now and then. I thought that was great. Got the Gear Forest. Having the current come from the Gear Forest was kind of cool. Although it's a bit odd that they're essentially saying that the Titans just wanted to control the current so that they could essentially help free Chronomon, or like invade the human world to cause chaos that might free Chronomon, is essentially what their mission operandum is. But it doesn't seem like it would have been that hard to invade Gear Forest. Like, you know, there was a few side missions where Digimon were just there. Like, it can't be that difficult to protect the current, especially with Bacchusmon sleeping and drinking most of the time. So that was a little bit weird. But, you know, I chose not to question it too much. Rebellion Village. I thought that was really neat, having a little village that's in a sort of like space underneath Tokyo with a portal to Central Town. I thought that was great. And having all Digimon leave the village to basically take Central Town back. It's pretty cool. Got bits of the lab down here. You've got the dark area where Plutomon resides. Like I said, didn't really like that area that much. The castle was cool at the end, but the general like level design I wasn't too keen on. And then you've got like the ice and the fire place, and having them be like just one world that you can turn upside down. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, with all the different platforms, it's just the designs in this are just crazy cool though. Here I'm guessing these are farm items. To be fair, I haven't really decorated the farm at all. I've only really gone in there to use the training stuff and quick complete. I think most people are the same. The farm definitely was a little bit undercooked. They could have done a bit more with it than what they did. Because they've clearly put a lot of work into all these items and they don't really do anything. So that's a bit of a shame. But, you know, cool looking items. And then the card game, probably the most annoying card game in an RPG. The fact that you have essentially no control over what happens is really frustrating. You know, you don't even get to choose what cards you use. And the fact that it's RNG, so even if you have a massive advantage, you still lose, can be pretty annoying. But that being said, you know, I won probably like 95% of the time, even with unfavorable matchups. So it's a bit of a silly game, really. It doesn't really mean anything. What do we got here? We've got each of the constellations for each of the Olympus 12, and a still from each of the Akashic records as well, which is really cool. I really enjoyed these Akashic record readings. The before and afters, I thought that was really cool, having Mireille voice it as well. Really enjoyed that. And then we have scenes from the anime that Hiroko made, essentially protecting or showing like the main character protecting Inori with the help of Agumon. I thought that was really cool. So that is the Time Stranger art book. Really nice art book, and yeah, definitely glad I didn't look at this before I played the game. That essentially spoiled the whole thing. My thoughts on Time Stranger as a whole, as you could probably gather from the things that I've been saying throughout this video, I really like it. I'm really looking forward to my Mega Plus, New Game Plus run. As far as JRPGs go, forget that it's Digimon. It's like got one of the best stories, in my opinion, that I've played in a while. Certainly one of the most coherent, which is kind of funny considering it owns it has something to do with time travel, but the fact that it's constantly keeping you guessing, and I kept coming up with theories on what was going on throughout the game, and the way it pays off at the end, I think was really good. It's by far the best of the story games. Now I can't speak for the Japanese DS story games, which I know were called World in the West. For example, Digimon World DS is called like Digimon Story DS or something in Japan. Of the Cyber Sleuth, Hacker's Memory, Time Stranger, of the three of them, Time Stranger sits head and shoulders above the other two, and the other two were probably the best Digimon games before this one. So they've really outdone themselves, really impressed. I'm glad that they're seeing success, and I hope that we see more from this world, from these characters, if not just more Digimon games in the same vein or similar vein to this. I hope they actually take this success and do something with it, instead of just assuming it's a fluke and moving on, as Bandai is known to do. But I think it was worth the wait. I'm not disappointed at all. I think I'd give it a 9 out of 10 if I was to give it numbers. And I just hope they continue to build on this success. Yeah, really loves Time Stranger. So that's everything from me. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know your thoughts on Time Stranger and the art book, I guess, in the comments below. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care, and I'll catch you on another video.